All right, everybody. So just doing an Instagram live. Got a bunch of questions, so we're going to address those. This is going to get posted into the YouTube channel as well. So if you want to see any of this information when we're able to see it live, go and head over there. First question: do I use beard oil? Yes, I use Johnny B's. Second question, very valuable one: are my traps real? No, they are completely photoshopped on. So now to get to some real questions. A couple interesting questions surrounding the knee particularly. Had an individual ask how to strengthen the knee to prevent wear and tear. So great question. Something to consider is number one, we can't really specifically strengthen the knee itself. It's a joint, but what we can do is strengthen the muscles around it and the surrounding additional soft tissue. So a couple of things that we're going to consider is going to be building up the musculature around the knee itself. So we're looking at the quads, the hamstrings, the gastroc, the other muscles of the calf. Then from there, the next things we can consider are improving control of the knee, so utilizing the joints that influence it. So that's going to be working on addressing the hips and the ankles, and additionally even the trunk. Those can all have an influence on it. So if you're having concern about any sort of knee issues, those are the things you're going to be primarily looking to address. So building up quad strength is a very important one, looking at hamstrings, calf, and then really focusing on the hips. That's going to be a big aspect. Next question around the knee is, if you have patella cracking, is that something to be concerned of, and how to fix it? So the first thing is, I don't think we really have any way to fix that. Additionally, should you be concerned about it? No. We do have some research that has looked into the sounds that we hear with joints and whether or not that actually leads to greater chance of osteoarthritis, and the evidence does not point that it's anything of real risk. Generally, we actually see quite the opposite. So if you're having an issue or having some concern because you're feeling or hearing joints cracking, don't worry about it. Now, if you're having pain with that, that's a completely different thing, and that's where then maybe you need to consider going to see someone and being evaluated for that. Next question: how to feel the glutes in a squat or deadlift. So if you're an individual who's going through these motions, you have what you would consider be pretty good technique, but you're just struggling with feeling the glutes. Thanks, Bob. We all would like better traps. But you want to be able to feel your glutes more in the movement. Well, a few things that you consider is, number one, checking out your technique, seeing if you are doing a movement that's going to encourage more glute activation itself. If that's something that's not really going to change, well then, next thing would be, if you're not feeling them, do some sort of exercise at the beginning of your program in your warm-up that's going to help encourage that. So that might be in the form of hip thrusts, glute bridges, clamshells, some hip abductions, something that challenges the glutes a bit more specifically and is going to encourage more activation of them, so that as you go into your warm-up, you have already encouraged more activation so you can feel them to a greater degree. The next thing that you can do is add in more of that at the end of your workout. I work with primarily strength athletes, so I don't really have any physique athletes currently, and that means that generally I'm not going to program a glute-specific day. Whereas with a powerlifter or a weightlifter, I might program additional specific glute work at the end of their workout. So they might go through their program, and then at the end of the day, they might do some specific stuff to hit up the hip extension, hip external rotation, hip abduction stuff of the glutes. You might do it in the form of a circuit to really get a challenge to go through them, but you're going to be looking to do more stuff like that more frequently. If you aren't feeling them in the movements that you want to feel them in, then you generally need to go slower, put a little bit more focus to them. So actually trying to slow down and feel the contraction, and then basically just spend more time working on it. So two more questions we're going to look at. How to train the deadlift for short arm lifters. So if you're an individual who has shorter arms, generally the deadlift is going to be a more challenging movement for you. Unfortunately, there's not really too many significant things that we do differently. You're going to realistically make some modifications to your technique, trying to change your leverages. Generally, you're going to see people that have short arms are going to shift more something like sumo, but you do see short arm lifters for conventional as well. So unfortunately, you're not going to be able to do a ton in that regards, but just work on it more. Just like most other things, like if you're someone who is not very good at squatting, you got to squat more often. If you struggle with deadlifting, deadlift more often. Alter your volume so that you're able to handle it. Make sure you don't go as intense as you might want to. It might be as simple as doing more repetitions at a lower intensity. So spend more time working on it. Last one we're going to look at. So recently we posted a picture onto the feed about biceps tendinopathy, particularly in overhead athletes. I've had a lot of people asking about questions on that and things that they can do for it. So when we look at biceps tendinopathy, generally it's going to be with the long head of the biceps tendon And that gives us something to consider. So when we think of the function of the long head of the biceps, it has two main things that it does. It flexes the elbow, and it also flexes the shoulder. So when we think about that, we're going to be looking to do activities that challenge elbow flexion and shoulder flexion. Generally, it's going to be easiest to start off with some sort of isometric, so something where you don't have movement, generally around a mid-range position, and that way it's going to be least provocative to the tendon, but allows you to start to introduce some load. So you might do that in the form of a static bicep curl at 90 degrees, or you might do it in some form of shoulder flexion drill. I'm going to film some of these later today, and I'm actually going to post them to the story, so you guys can have a little bit more idea for that. Additionally, you would then progress onto some sort of isotonic movement, so something that's going to have motion in it, going through the range of motion, generally in a bit more slow format, but challenging it to go heavier in it. And then finally, after that, you start to introduce a bit more speed and challenging it. But this is going to usually be something that takes a while. This isn't going to generally go away quickly. For a lot of people that have a sort of tendinopathy issue, we're going to see that their pain might go away in a few short weeks, but the actual pathological change will continue for a lot longer. So it might be beneficial to keep going and working on these things after the pain goes away. For a lot of people, it's going to be ideal to do this for around 8 to 12 weeks. So that's just something to consider. So this is just a short little Q&A at lunchtime today. I'm going to try and do one of these every couple of weeks. So if you guys have any more questions you'd like addressed next time, you can feel free to send them in. Otherwise, I'll make a post next time, the day before that we're going to do this.